Thank you very much, and welcome to meeting number 2 of the Corporate Services Committee meeting. I am your chair, Shelley Braderick, and I just have a couple of comments before we start our meeting. Comments can be made by members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. 2, the public may submit written comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylov@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting for consideration by the committee. Comments received after 4:30 p.m. on the day of the committee meeting will be considered at the following council meeting. Comments submitted are included in the record. 3, the meeting will be live streamed as well as recorded and available on the Township website. Also a note to members of the public, all cell phones, pagers, and/or PDAs to be turned off. Members of the public who are attending and participating virtually are reminded to keep their microphones muted until they are acknowledged to speak. I'm on to the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattamarandarock, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Looking to see if there's any change in order of the items on the agenda. Seeing none. And asking if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest. Seeing none. We have 2 appointments for tonight, and our first is 5.1, item CS09-25, Jeffrey Vergad of the MPCA about Trees for All 2025 program update, and I believe you have a power presentation. Please come forward, Jeffrey. And I think Kevin's setting that up for you.
All right. Thank you, and good evening. Through the chair, my name is Jeffrey Vercade. I'm the Senior Manager of Integrated Watershed Strategies at the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. MPCA appreciate the committee's interest in and welcomes the opportunity to share more about the Trees for All program. Just going to go through these really quick here. My outline for tonight is very straightforward. After introducing and providing a brief program overview, I'll highlight a few program benefits for focusing on the tree planting scopes that the program offers, and I will conclude with details regarding the program's relationship to the federal 2 billion tree program. Trees for All is a recently enhanced restoration-oriented tree planting program for both public and private lands in both urban and rural areas within the Niagara Peninsula watershed. Led by the MPCA, it is supported by a broad local partnership of government and other organizations working together since 2021. This emerging multi-year high-volume tree planting program has developed from collaborative efforts of this partnership. It is resourced by MPCA tree planting services built on a cost-sharing approach leveraging available subsidies, and it prioritizes ecological co-benefits while educating communities about the value of trees. The program goals are to aspirationally plant 1 million trees across the watershed by 2031, provides subsidized costs for trees and implementation services that value appropriate site preparation, native planting prescriptions, and long-term maintenance and monitoring to ensure the highest survival. Also to improve watershed health, restore woodlots, and increase forest cover, enhance local habitats, improve water quality, and build a more resilient natural system. And lastly, to educate communities about the value of trees as nature-based solutions to mitigate climate change, enhance biodiversity, and increase local tree canopy. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority has a long legacy of planting trees and shrubs to the benefit of increasing natural forest and woodlot cover, enhancing habitats, and improving water quality within the watershed. And we are being recognized and increasingly sought for this leadership in tree planting subject matter expertise developed through the restoration programming. Community desire to plant trees and shrubs are growing in response to the recommendation to implement nature-based solutions, strengthen biodiversity, and increase the tree canopy on the landscape. And demands for planting services have grown. This increasingly includes the provision of associated planting services that incorporate client engagement, project management, design, and maintenance. So the program is designed to provide these services in a full service. So you can see that there as a full point. It is a full service backed program. In terms of community impact, it is designed for a high level of civic engagement through community planting events. And the idea is, again, to communicate trees as a nature-based solution to mitigate climate change. And as a cost-saving value that the program offers, it brings together subsidies to help reduce costs through a cost-sharing approach. It focuses on two planting scopes or styles that we talk about. So these are bare root and potted. We do the bare root planting on both private and public lands, depending on what the site is and the prescription that might be required there. And the potted plantings we do predominantly on public lands. Bare root plantings are the typical ones that MPCA has done for years. Speaking to that legacy I mentioned earlier, I believe since around 2000 when I joined the authority, we've planted over 1 million trees, and these are done on mostly on private lands. The potted stream is where we do most of the community plantings, where we get that civic engagement. It typically is greening and naturalization on public lands. So in terms of the potted plantings in 2025, we are aspiring to plant 20,000, and this is related to the 2 billion tree award that I'll be talking a little bit more about in a future slide. It is using competitively secured stock that we have gone after and made sure that we have the species that we want for our public plantings. And again, we prioritize this stream to working with partners on public lands to green and naturalize and do that civic engagement through community plantings. Typically, partner financial and in-kind contributions are required to make it work. In terms of the bare root plantings in 2025, right now we're looking at about 41,000 trees to be done. And these are the ones I was mentioning are typically done on private lands with landowner participation. So it's usually done through hand planting, and landowners will typically come to the table and beyond offering their land to do the planting and the afforestation on, they will contribute things like site preparation. There is a financial contribution for them as well. And we have the opportunity to provide replanting if survival's there below 60%. MPCA recently announced our federal is improve efficiency and engage local communities. That we are endeavoring to strengthen partnerships and outreach with municipalities, landowners, businesses, and volunteers to drive long-term program success. And we are looking to maximize federal funding impact by enhancing operational capacity fostering strategic collaborations and scaling up restoration efforts. So a little bit more on the 2 billion tree connection. We were able to secure, based on the support from the broad partnership surrounding Trees for All, to land an award of $2 million to plant 80,000 trees over the next 4 years through 2028. So it is a 50-50 agreement with the federal government, where the other 50 comes from us as a partnership, where we can break that down between financial and in-kind contributions. In-kind contributions can be stuff like staff time to support MPCA with coordinating plantings on public properties, but it can also include services such as materials and supplies for things like site prep or mulching that is required for a lot of the plantings. So it's a significant deal that we've got able to make a lot of planting happen in the Niagara watershed. And lastly, the federal funding also addresses the development of a native seed collection community of practice for the Niagara watershed, and this is supported by another $300,000 from Natural Resources Canada. The native seed collection community of practice was actually a scope of work that we initially proposed of another tree planting city building streams, and so we did that based on the importance of native seed collection to the production of stock for our planting aspirations, as well as for research and preservation, such as, making sure we have seed from the proper provenance locally here. This initiative is going to be delivered by the Vineland Research and Innovation Center, which will help secure a supply of native, genetically diverse, and regionally adapted tree species to support future reforestation and restoration projects. And as you can see, the scope here is basically to kind of come up with the local strategy to collaboratively source seed, everything from identifying sites, so public properties that have access to woodlots where we may be able to harvest seeds are some of the things we're interested in, but also making sure we have the proper protocols in place, because this is sensitive stuff to handle and get back into growers' hands. And we also brought a couple additional partners into the mix on the seed collection community piece here. So you can see we are working with significant players like Carolinian Canada, who is working on a Southern Ontario seed collection strategy, who is using a local partnership approach, which fits well with the way that this project has been designed. Obviously, the Niagara Parks Communication, Forest Canada, who I mentioned earlier, and Forest Gene Conservation Association, who are the ones who actually certify seed collectors. And that is it. I really appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to turn to my colleagues to see if anybody has any comments or questions. Councillor Chichuk.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I think because some people may be streaming or listening or will listen to this very much in the future, if you could elaborate how it is that people register to become participants in this, and or how they're selected, because there's a bit of responsibility. So I'll go with that question first. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. That's actually a really good question. So I mentioned that we've been working with a broader group since 2021. In 2023, we actually got a capacity building grant from 2 Billion Trees to actually go out and solicit the public and do an inventory. If you're going to do a large volume multi-year program, the number one thing is where you're going to plant these things. So we appealed to the public at that time without any promises, just, hey, who's interested in planting on their lands? So that's what we've been working with to date. As a result of that, we created some expectations, so we're trying to deal with that first. We're almost through all of that inventory, so in future years, we may be doing future calls out to solicit private landowners. But at that time, in terms of the public planting piece, we worked with a lot of our partners who provided us inventories of their properties or gave us subsets of their properties where they were willing to plant and thought there were good planting opportunities. So that's how those opportunities and all the planting sites have come to be so far.
Further, through you, so there's no place that people can register to become possible partners into the future. It's just that this is a wonderful thing, and I looked at the paper, and it was like,
what their subject matter expertise thinks might work well there, and then talk about advancing a potential project if they feel comfortable with what they've heard after they've had a better appreciation of what their cost may be and part of the cost-sharing approach to it. So that's basically the process after we have a call-out. And like I said, we'll probably be having another one this year, having gone through the inventory that we solicited in 2023. So.
thank you. I really appreciate your saying that, because we had some modest interest at our budget time where interested people, individuals came forward, but I was surprised we didn't have a more robust challenge to how and what they could do to get onto the list. So that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And the presentation was great.
Thank you.
First of all, appreciate your fine work. It's so important to the ecology and the environment. My question is, your goal is 20,000 approximately of trees every year. What would be the net loss of trees through a number of reasons or causes? Just trying to get a handle on the net value of your work and what's lost and what you're planning on planting in each year leading up to 2028.
Yeah, through the chair, that's an excellent question, and I'll just caveat too. 20,000 is just what we aspire to do every year on the potted side. So on that bare root side, which is more the seedlings that you do with the private landowners, I had a figure in there where this year we're doing around 41,000. We aspirationally want to get up to 70,000 a year, so to do a total of 90. But we're working and building capacity toward that. In terms of a net loss, it's a good question. Nobody really keeps track of that. We do what we would say is a watershed report card, kind of every 4 years, and we quantify trees in terms of forest cover. And quite honestly, you don't see those numbers vary that much year over year. But we do know there are losses in certain parts of land uses happening, and there's more frequent and different types of inventory starting to happen now because people are appreciating tree canopy and tree cover in the urban areas even more. So you'll have to wait till we go through a couple cycles of that. And of course, technology is changing too. They're using AI and deep learning things to produce these things more rapidly. But I think a good way to think about this is when we were originally looking at what our targets should be and stuff like that, we had calculated obviously that we were at a certain forest cover percentage across the watershed, which was about 17.5 to 18%. In order to get that to move by 1% on the landscape, and I mentioned in it's a lot that has to go to move the percentage needle quite a bit.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Rain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, what's the three main varieties of trees that you planted now? Obviously, ash are gone. Obviously, elm is gone. I mean, ash was stable for many, many years, and all of a sudden it got totally wiped out. But what do you focus on? What's the three main varieties?
Through the chair, I don't know exactly what the three main top are, but we have a really robust list of native species that we focus on. So it really depends on the site, whether it's upland or lowland, right? Whether it's wet or dry, and that would change it. But there's oaks, there's hickories, it's all Carolinian species. We will do red pines, and yeah, there's a whole host of them. If you're interested in the list, I could share that with you as a follow-up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, the reason I ask is because I'm sure you place your orders ahead of time, so you must know what varieties of seedlings you're ordering, because you just can't place the order today and have it delivered next week. So I would that's why I figured you would know. I'm interested more in white oak, red oak, that kind of hardwood trees, maple possibly.
Yeah, red and white oak are certainly in our species list. I can say that with confidence.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, through you to Jeffrey here, thanks for the presentation. In your presentation, you stated that you got federal contribution for $2 million. We will require $1 million in matching financial contributions at a minimum from partners over the term of the agreement. Can you just expand what kind of purpose and what you're really looking for? Because that's where,
Well, that's,
go ahead.
yeah, through the chair. So the funding announcement for the 2 billion, or the 2 billion trees money that we got was an award for $2 million. But those are contribution agreements. So it requires to be matched 50-50. And what you're eligible out of your half is a half of that up to in-kind. So to make the 2 million work that we have here for the Niagara watershed, that's basically the amount that we need to do in each of those categories to make it work.
Okay, so for the people watching at home, we have many municipalities that are probably, you're going to do your presentation for this, I guess, lobbying for, funding is what you're doing, right? So how many municipalities and what is usually the average cost share for the municipality?
Through the chair, we break it out equal so we know what it looks like equally, but it really depends on scope. So it's certainly not obligatory, and we're working with partners as they appreciate the value of the services in the program as an offering. So that's basically how it's operating at the moment.
So there's more to come, I guess, for information on that one.
Yeah, through the chair, if it doesn't happen, then we don't use all the federal money, right?
Okay.
So you can only spend what is legitimate, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Jeffrey. So again, I might have missed this, so I apologize if I get you repeating yourself here. I guess for West Lincoln's portion that was asked to this year's budget, I think was deferred for the time being. What assurities can you give us, or what guarantees can you give us that kind of funding will be specifically used for West Lincoln residents? I think the concern I have, maybe shared by others, is that it's great for us to chip in, and I know right now it's based on more of a volunteer system in terms of applying for it when the application window becomes available again. But last thing I want to do is subsidize someone else's municipality. I'd much rather see that investment kept here. So through Madam Chair to the presenter.
Yeah, through the chair, that's a great point, and I fully appreciate it. So the services are structured on a service rate per unit. So on the bare root seedling side, there is a cost per tree, and the same thing on the potted side, and you only pay for the trees that go into your municipality.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And back to Councillor Chichak.
So you only pay for the cost of the tree. Who's doing the labor to put these trees in? Thank you, Madam Chair, sorry.
Yeah, through the chair, that's a good clarifying question. So when I talk about the cost per tree, that is the service rate for the full service that I communicated in the presentation. So that covers us to work on everything from engagement with the landowner to all the planning, the ordering of the trees, all the looking at the site to make sure you have the right species to mobilize, to get on there, to get it implemented, to do even the follow-up monitoring with some of the subsidies providers that we have in terms of providing survival rates and all that stuff out to 5 years.
So, Madam Chair, if I follow up on that, then if you put it into my front lawn, and I'm not a good tree caring person, and 60% of my trees fail, is there consideration given to the fact that I'm not a good babysitter? Like, how is it that the obligation to care for the trees that are put onto each person's property have a survival rate of 50, 70, or 10%? Madam Chair.
Yeah, through the chair, it's a good question. There are things we can control with survivor rate, and obviously landowners, and this is why we ask for a cost contribution, because they have some skin in the game. So if it is excessively hot, they may go out and help water. But there's also other things that we can't control. So that is why we have the replant rates, and that is right through the subsidizers that we work with on the seedling bare root side of scope. If it's below 60%, they're eligible for replant, so we can get additional subsidy to go back and replace the stuff or the trees that didn't survive.
My last question then. You've led me to the what is it? To the edge. I need to ask. Roughly, what does it cost for an installation of one tree? Bare root. Because it's about $1 for the tree if I go to wherever the tree places are.
Yeah, so our service rate is $14, and I can't remember exact cents, but it does, yeah, that's the one thing most people do not appreciate is how expensive it is to mobilize and make this stuff happen. So that's the service rate per tree. That is not what it costs the municipality. It's certainly not what it costs the landowner because there is a cost share. But that's how it gets done.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I do have just a quick comment and a posing question, but not for yourself, but our CIO. I know that during our budget discussions, this item was removed as we needed to gather more information and, come to a conclusion about what opportunities may present within our township to partner with the Niagara Conservation Authority. So I'm going to turn to our CIO to see if he has had the opportunity to put some time and thought into that, and if he can shed some light on what maybe opportunities there could be for partnership.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So this was an item that from budget, as council may recall, there was a letter from a resident that the mayor did read out, and in turn, then council asked for more information on this program, and that has been presented this evening. Council was also interested, or rather, I'll back up. Within the draft budget, there was $10,000 being carried within the draft. That was to be funded from capital reserves, so there was $10,000 over the next 3 years. Part of what council had requested through resolution to administration was that we come back and consider a different funding source, and I believe that the wind turbine funding was mentioned. So Ms. Repobs is here tonight and has confirmed that money, $10,000, is available to council should they wish to move ahead with this program out of the wind turbine reserve. So if council wanted to begin as a pilot program for this year, we could transfer that money out of reserve if council so wishes, and that would enable the municipality itself to participate in this program with Niagara Peninsula Conservation for the year 2025, and the program could be reviewed at the end of this year. Alternatively, if council wishes to review this again in the future, we can bring this back to subsequent budgets. We're at council's disposal.
Thank you very much for that update and reminder of some of the history of what was discussed during our budget talks. I have turned to the clerk to see if he can prepare a resolution in that matter, but I'm going to, in the meantime, turn to Councillor Chichak, who has her hand up.
I have only one question, and since Turbine Central tends to be in one ward, I guess what I want to make sure of is I'm happy to hear that we're going to use turbine money to think of funding this. There are other alternatives in the future, like the contingency reserve and various other things, which at budget time were problematic, where there was a way that we could do it without impacting the taxpayers. And that's what the kind of creativity that I was looking for, and I think some of my colleagues were looking for, is no impact to the taxpayer. I would hope that all of the people who lost trees during the invasion of the turbines have now had their issue resolved. And as long as that's there, that's why I pointed to it during budget. I would hope that we would, if we can say with clarity that trees have been replaced or substituted or whatever, that's great. Then that money should be there to look at to increase the tree canopy. That's great. And the other thing is, how many people actually in West Lincoln are getting trees? Because I hear we have trees coming to West Lincoln, but I don't know how many we actually have going around. Is it 10, 20, 30 people? I'd just like to know. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any further comments? So I'm going to turn to the clerk to see if he has an opportunity to read us a resolution to put on the floor.
Through the chair to the rest of council, this is currently what I have. Please correct any errors. That administration be directed to conduct a pilot project in regards to the Trees for All program to the cost of $10,000.
Madam Chair, out of an abundance of caution, funding up to, if we're not getting the trees, ergo how many are coming here, And to Councillor Riley's point, if I don't want to subsidize other municipalities, if the trees are coming here, great. But if the first year is only $2,000, or if it's $22,000, we should know.
Just give him a second and then he can reread that.
Through the chair to the CAO, just for clarification, transferred from I have currently the wind turbine account, sorry.
The correct name of the reserve is the Wind Turbine Community Fund.
Thank you, Caitlin. So through the chair to council, this is currently what I have. That administration be directed to conduct a pilot project in regards to the Trees for All program, funding up to $10,000 transferred from the Wind Turbine Community Fund.
And do I have a mover for that? Mayor Gannan, seconder, Councillor Riley. Really making that clerk sweat tonight. That's true. And we'll wait on the vote to come up in front of you. And it should be there. And that passes. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you to my colleagues for that robust discussion. And we're going to move on to our next presenter. For item CS 10-25, Chris Fuhr, Ontario Ploughmen's Association, IPM 2025, information and request for corporate partnership, and a power presentation under separate cover. We'll let you get set up there.
Is it on? I prefer it off, actually. Through the chair to council and staff, my name is Chris Fuhr. I'm a fourth-generation farmer living in Wellandport. We're focused on cash crop and broiler chickens, and I got whatever Albert has behind me, so grab a little water first. How's that? I'm here tonight on behalf of the International Plowing Match Local Committee being held here in Grassy this fall. With me tonight is Renata McGilvery. She is a co-chair and part of the team. I am in charge of operations for the event and got to be the lucky one to present to you tonight. So I understand that a presentation was made to council probably a little over a year ago on this event, and just to bring an awareness of what's going to be coming to the region. I'm here tonight to provide a bit of an overview. I think there's some new faces in council right now and around the table, so appropriate to bring everybody up to speed on what the event is, where we are with planning, and looking at what sort of partnerships we can forge to make this an exciting event here in West Lincoln. Now, the event itself, I'm just going to stop there. The event itself is brought to the community by, I guess we'll call it two entities. There's the IPM local committee that Renata and I represent tonight, and there's the Ontario Ploughmen's Association. So they are out of Guelph, and they lead this event around the province annually, along with other activities. So we work with the OPA to bring the event here in West Lincoln. What that means is they've got a team that we work with that have an intimate knowledge of the event on a annual basis, and then we've put together a strong group of local volunteers, many who have been together for probably the last 18 months, planning and working to bring this here. So both parties are working together to make this a successful event. It's the largest show of its kind in North America, and it's coming here to West Niagara Fairgrounds from the 16th to the 20th of September. It was first held in 1913. As I mentioned earlier, it travels throughout Ontario. This will be the 106th version of the event, and the last time it was held in Niagara was 1926, and that was held in the fall. So it's been 99 years. What does it involve? Well, we'll start with the plowing. There's 5 days of plowing competition. We've got roughly 180 acres of land confirmed through local landowners who want to participate in the event, where the plowing will take place within probably a 2-mile radius of the fairgrounds. We will have many different classes of plowing, including heavy horses, which is always exciting to see. There will be participants from across Canada, the United States, and Europe. What else is involved in this event? Well, there's Tented City. So Tented City covers probably a 30-plus acre area on the fairground site, which will have up to 500 vendors and exhibitors. There'll be music and entertainment throughout the day over these 5 days, rural living displays, lifestyles, antique, historical displays. It's a really unique rural expo that we think, especially considering our region, it's going to open the eyes to, I think, the agricultural community for many. Right? It's been a while since this event has been held this close to the GTA, and so we feel it could have a significant impact from that perspective. There's an educational program that's part of the first 4 days on the Tuesday through Friday that brings in up to 6,000 students over those days. And so we work with our partners to find ways to bring these students to the event to learn about agriculture, not just locally, but across the province. There's also the RV park, and I'm not sure whether you're aware of this, but part of the lure of this match is for people to be able to set up and camp on site and spend the week. There are over 400 fully serviced sites that we are working on to set up for the event, and so that takes a considerable amount of coordination, and that is happening on the property immediately adjacent to the fairgrounds. One of the highlights, I'll say from a political perspective, is the first day. The opening ceremonies, the tractor parade, we see this is the only day that the provincial legislature will shut down, and we will see the politicians and the premier will be here that day to participate in the event. You've probably seen the pictures where they do the plowing that day, and we're working on the red, green, and orange and what other color? Blue tractors that we need for the event. Anyways, so that's an exciting day, and I mean, I know it's something that everybody looks forward to, and it is very unique for this province to have the legislature shut down and to have, the provincial, basically the government will be here for the day. And I would say it's a good opportunity too for our councillors and our mayor to participate and staff and be able to have these informal conversations with the province. There's also the Queen of the Furrow competition, which takes place over the week and culminates with a banquet on the Friday. From an economic impact, based on data from other events, they're looking at least a $25 million positive economic impact to the host region. We're looking at attendance averages of over 70,000 people over the course of those 5 days. And as you can see by that last stat, people will travel. So you were able to welcome people to West Lincoln and show them our best. We are working hard to promote local agriculture, food, and agribusiness. As you can imagine, we're trying to highlight the grape and wine and the tender fruit industries as part of this event, and a lot of planning is focused on providing unique opportunities for attendees tied to those things. It times well with the Grape and Wine Festival that's being held in September as well. And we know that visitors won't just stay at the event. They're going to seek out other off-farm opportunities on-farm markets, but off-site opportunities when they come to visit. So they will be able to, we are going to work our best to highlight West Lincoln and where they can visit. We know we have farm markets. We know we have unique agribusinesses out in the community. So how can we highlight them and make them a focus of somebody's day here in West Lincoln? I think we're just going to move through some of the we do talk about regional tourism, the opportunity to spend more than one day in the region. Don't just come down here for the day, come down here for 2, come down for 3. So trying to promote the region itself and have people seek out other experiences while they are here. But in the end, in order to make an event like this successful, we need a lot of partners, right? As I mentioned, we've got a strong core group of local volunteers, and I know behind me a couple individuals in the crowd already said we're going to be there for the week and we're going to be there to help out. And I think you're going to see a lot of West Lincoln step up for this event. We will be engaging, and we've started, but more formally with local businesses and organizations in terms of partnerships, in-kind supports to the event, and financial contributions. As well, neighboring municipalities have reached out, wondering what they can do to help, and we will be, I know I do have a checklist of municipalities to visit following this meeting. The other piece is there's a ton of provincial support from a sponsorship perspective that we don't necessarily see from a local committee, but the OPA brings that to the table to be a part of this event. So it's quite a significant event. But today specifically, I want to talk about what our event is looking for from West Lincoln. I think under another cover, did the PDF get shared with the AS? Just that, okay. I wasn't sure there was this, okay. So what we're looking for from the township. We know that as the host municipality, there is a certain responsibilities in terms of us working with your staff to plan this event. And we're hoping that we can work through those elements to make this successful with in-kind support. The special event declaration that we need to be able to host the event. We have met with staff to understand what's needed from a permitting, inspection, and fee perspective, right? Tented City requires a number of 50 by 100 and larger tents to go up. So that will require work with the staff to make sure things are, building permits and planning is consulted. As well, there's an ask for culvert upgrades to ensure that access is adequate to the site. Once the traffic management plan has been finalized with region staff and with the Niagara Regional Police, we'll be looking for support to help enact that plan, especially on municipal roads. And then finally, water, wastewater. When this event takes place, the RV park is fully serviced. So we provide clean potable water to the RV park, as well as providing wastewater solutions for dumping the trailers when they leave. We will be looking for support from staff to make sure that the water is monitored and safe and potable over the course of the event. And then on the financial side, we're making an ask of $15,000 to this council. And just for transparency, we've made this same ask to Lincoln and Grimsby Council. So, thank you for your time tonight, and I welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for your great presentation. I'm going to turn to my colleagues to see who has a question or a comment. Councillor Riley.
I'll start things off. Thank you. Chris, thank you for the presentation, taking the time out of your schedule to present to us. I got a few questions here. One, I'll start off through you, Madam Chair. So you said that the exact same request has been given, I'm guessing monetary-wise, to the to each municipality nearby some of our lambs. So first thing that sticks out to me, just to a little bit of context here, is that places like Grimsby and we'll call them East Lincoln, not to confuse anybody from where we're at, they have the hotels. They have 10 times, if not more, the restaurants. They're going to see more bang for their buck than I think we will actually be able to see ourselves. So I'm just wondering, through Madam Chair, to the presenter, was ever a proration or some kind of comparative to what our municipality would actually get back in return? Was there ever a discussion around making it a little bit more per capita? So I'm looking to understand, like, should they not be carrying a little bit more of the burden, financially speaking? Because even some of the other requests here regarding upgrading culverts, and we're talking about probably, I don't know, at least 6 figures. outside of the monetary ask. So I'm just trying to understand if that has been explored or if those worms are out of the can now because you've already made those presentations.
Through you, Chair, we felt as a committee when we determined we'll call it the cash part, that it be an equal partnership between the three communities. We didn't look at net economic benefit that might come back. We looked at putting all three at the same level.
Okay.
We looked at making sure that all three are represented as a hosting partner at the same level. We are asking different things in kind of the other communities that we might not ask of you. And when we did have our first sort of meeting with staff from each of the three communities, I can tell you, well, you look at your balance sheet, as you just indicated, 6 figures. I'm struggling to understand that. But from my perspective, there are things we are asking and where they are also stepping up saying, you know, I know West Lincoln has staff. I'm going to use the water, for example. They have staff, but I think there might only be 2 staff to support the water. The other community said, we're happy to send our staff up to help out. So when we look at the ask right now as it is, I know the other communities have indicated they are willing to step up and do more. I should also note, I've left the EMS side out of things, but we have been a lot of communication with fire and the three municipalities to see how we can manage and share the efforts to support the EMS part of the event and all emergency management planning that is also underway.
Thank you. So my follow-up, Madam Chair, is back to you, to Chris there. So you've met with each of the municipalities. Have you? So I might have missed this. Have you met with the region to see if they would be part of that financial?
Yes.
Okay.
So, sorry, through you, Chair, to the councillor, or do you want to finish your question?
No, go ahead.
Yes, we met with the region in December. We presented to the region. With that was an extensive list of in-kind asks, as well as a financial contribution, which was more than, it was, I believe, of $55,000 was the ask to the region.
Okay, so I guess the other part of my question is I was hoping, and if it hasn't happened, maybe it can still happen, if there's a conversation through you, Madam Chair, to the presenter, that the police part's going to become a costly component as well. If that hasn't already been waived, I'm hoping that the region's willing to make a few phone calls on your behalf to help with that impact. Through
you, Chair, to the councillor, we do have a contact at the region where we're working through the list, and that is on it.
Okay.
Yes.
I just know because when we've done the Santa Claus parade in the past, we've had to bring in police as well, and that is a costly component. So,
yes.
It gets kind of...
And I think the traffic management plan will end up ultimately dictating the extent of the Niagara Regional Police involvement. But I know we have talked about just their presence as in the area as part of the event, and that's something probably we won't incur the cost on. It's more what's tied to traffic management.
So, and if I can, I'll pass the mic off to somebody else. So the reason why I estimated it to be around 6 figures is before our current CO came in and our interim CO was kind of a part of the whole process. One of the things we were looking into and one of the things that came back to how other municipalities have managed this, and I believe in general conversation that there was potentially an expectation that it could cost upwards of $150,000 for the hosting municipality, which is right now every $100,000 approximately, I'm going to round up a notch, but is 1% on the tax levy. And even to pull it from reserve, that is a big investment. And it's hard to kind of measure what these are actually going to cost because of the amount of work that's required. So I guess my question to you, Madam Chair, maybe to the CEO or to, I guess, any member of staff that can speak to it. When can council get a review of what the tentative costs are going to be so we kind of know what we're buying into so we know how to explain it to the community?
Yes, it was my intent to turn it to the CAO. Sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Councillor Riley. Our clerk again is ready with some wording, and what administration is proposing is that we would return to the Growth and Sustainability Committee meeting in April with a report that would break down these costs, in-kind costs, Also give council some ideas on if there is an interest in the $15,000 donation, where that could be pulled from. We have been doing some work with the International Plowing Match team. We had a meeting at the end of February, so we are working through the list that they provided us in detail and looking at what that cost is going to be. Any permitting fees as well would have to come back to council to be waived through resolution. So that's in process, and we should be in good shape for the first meeting in April to bring that back, and then council will have that information, funding sources, and everything it needs to make decisions at that point.
If I can, in a follow-up, and my last one for now, to you, Madam Chair, to the presenter, in the event that the council can't meet all of the requests, does that jeopardize the event?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, I think if the in-kind and financial pieces can't be fully met, we obviously have to revisit our budget to explore, potential cuts to the cost, because now I'll use the water quality testing. If we have to outsource the water quality testing to a firm, we know the cost to the event would be significant, that, now do we need to carve out another piece? And we don't want to have to sit and be guessing come mid-June what stays and what goes. We want to provide a complete, full event that people who attend year to year will come back and say, this was the best one yet, right? That's our goal.
Yes.
And in order to do that, we need the in-kind and the financial support to be able to make that happen. I mean, obviously, we'll work around it, but from our perspective, historically, the hosting communities have provided pretty comprehensive in-kind and financial support, and that really goes a long way to making, once again, the local volunteers sort of at ease in being able to deliver a high-class event.
Perfect. And I'll just say, I certainly hope that you're not, taking away any negativeness from this. I think this is a very exciting opportunity for our municipality and for all our neighboring municipalities. When it comes to money and people asking for stuff, and it's not my money directly, I have to ask these questions.
Understood.
So,
I'm a taxpayer too.
Perfect. Appreciate your understanding.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Chichak.
Madam Chair, I have at least one question. No, but to my colleague on the right, I'll advise you when I'm done. I think this is a wonderful event, and because I live on a farm, and I'm a farmer. I don't say that too often, but I don't say it often enough, and I think once in 100 years is like a storm, and we want to know something. So I might as well ask you, before I go any further, Madam Chair, through you, what happens if this is a wonderful success and there actually is money left over? Can you please explain that to us, Mr. Furr? And I think that's what we should be looking at, because the success of this is a direct factor of the ability of an outcome. And I guess I've been breathing this plowing match a little bit too much at home.
Through the chair to the councillor, if there is money left over from the event, it will be redistributed within the host communities. Okay, so that is always the goal. It's up to the committee to determine where those funds go, but every single dollar that is left over on our balance sheet as a local committee will go back to the communities involved.
So, Madam Chair, in addition to that, I understand that at one point we were expecting that there was a cash flow loan that would have to be upfronted to support this event going forward, because our local committee, while enthusiastic, didn't have a lot of money to start off this thing. So my question directly to Mr. Fuhrer is, how big is that loan that you require from us now?
Through the chair to the councillor, zero at this point in time.
So the success of getting...
I think the success of the momentum of the event, the team has done an awesome job promoting our RV park, and registrations with the RV park are coming in constantly, and we've been able to utilize that funding along with some of the proceeds from souvenir sales to seed the event. And now we're seeing corporate partners coming in as well. So I think we're moving in the right direction from a financial perspective.
I guess through you, Madam Chair, a number of years ago, the Poultry Fest used to pull our community together. And one of the things that this council came together for at inauguration was the fact that we were looking for a way to put this community back together on the same side of the street. And we've been through some turbulent years, so I look at this as a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to do that. And so my next question is, so how do people volunteer for this, sir? Because I know there's still about 8 or 10 of us out there that haven't asked.
Renata, who is also our volunteer chair at this point in time.
Madam Chair?
You have to come to the microphone.
I like microphones just as much as you do. You can sign up through the website, the International Plow and Match 2025. There is a volunteer component on the website. Also, if you directly send them to myself at volunteers@ipm2025.ca, they will come directly to my attention. I would like you to add to it, if you can put on it your availability, what days you are available and what time of the day. The event is from 8:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock, which I have people that say, I can volunteer after 5 o'clock, and thank you very much, but that just doesn't work. So yeah, just send me the email. You can go on the website and fill out the application. I believe there is an application also on the West Niagara Fair website, and you can follow our International Plow and Match Facebook and Instagram, and there's lots of requests for volunteers on it also. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess the only thing I would like to do is ensure that the motion, whatever comes forward, has the enthusiasm that this could bring to the community at its heart. We have no economic development, but if we want to showcase this municipality as someplace you may want to live, work, and play as houses come along, I see no better way than from an opportunity of seeing our best and being part of the International Plowmen's Association plowing match. So I'll leave that now. I might need another question, but I'll leave it for now.
I'm going to go to Councillor Trumbetta, then Councillor Minchuk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Fuhr, for your presentation. You know, I've known you for some time now, and usually when you get behind something, it usually comes with good success, and I think this is going to be a successful event in this community. You've been behind a lot of other things in this community. You're a community guy, and you're always engaged, and there's no doubt this is going to be a good event, especially led by yourself and your committee. You know, the financial support is not over the top, but again, we don't know, like the other councillor said, like when the first numbers came to us, they were, you know, well, $250,000 is what they were looking at. So this is a lot different, especially, you know, your request of $15,000 is a lot different. So there was another number ahead of that number last time it came. This kind of support stuff, there's not much. I guess there's some permit inspection stuff that's got to be waived, and then that'll be brought by the CAO. Through you, Madam Chair, to our Director of Public Works, there's some culvert upgrades. Can that be a shared cost with other municipalities like Lincoln and Grimsby to upgrade some of the culverts, you know, by utilizing the other municipalities? That'll be some little bit, you know, construction, excavation, that kind of stuff, right? So would that be a possible thing that you can maybe help us lobby? We're getting a shared cost with the neighboring municipalities?
Through the chair to Councillor Trumbetta, yeah, it's something that Chris and myself could talk to the other municipalities about. When Chris met with staff at the end of February, there was some ask, like culverts on regional roads. The region would look after that, and if I remember correctly, I think we only had one culvert that was asked.
Sorry,
at this
just for
point in time, yes.
confusion. So this is not for in-site culverts. This is more for road culverts.
Correct.
Road
It's
culverts.
for culverts that gain access to the site.
Okay,
Yeah.
so more like new approaches entering the site for big equipment is
That's
the
right.
idea?
That's right. So the current ask from the committee was, if I remember correctly, just one 40-foot culvert. They asked the township to install. So, you know, the cost to install that culvert with a couple of our staff and the labor and material could be anywhere from a couple grand, $2,000. But we could always reuse that culvert. But
the committee did ask the region to install some other culverts on their regional roads, so we are trying to share the in-kind services.
So some mountain and mud, we're looking at getting some culverts. I don't know if you want to maybe, through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Fear, if we can.
Yeah, through the chair to
Okay.
the counselor. Right now, there's an ask for 2 culverts to the region, one on Mountain.
Yeah.
To access the RV park, one on Mud directly across from Southward Park.
Okay.
Okay, to
access
access
that
the
field-
site,
that site
right?
in the back
Because,
there.
and then we are looking, there's already an existing culvert on South Grimsby Road 10.
Yep.
And we're looking to straighten out the driveway and put a 40-foot culvert in place. So that one would not be temporary, it'd be permanent. But once again, it would to be improving the access and be able to bring.
And that's more or less for transports to bring heavy equipment and kind of make the
Correct.
turn, correct?
You
Okay.
got it.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely, if we can look into something like that, and those culverts will remain there once, we're left the site as well, is that correct, I'm assuming, through you, Mr. Director?
Through the chair, Councillor Trombetta, I didn't realize they're permanent. We'll have to discuss
Oh,
that.
if they are, I don't know if they're gonna be permanent, as the
Well,
site gets.
As you're probably aware, leaving a 40-foot culvert in place permanently is something we kind of frown against.
Because of cleaning and then freezing
Correct.
and water
Yeah,
drainage, so
correct.
that'll have to be removed afterwards.
Yes, and we're working with the, sorry to interrupt, through the chair, we're also trying to work with the Fair Board because it does impact access to their parking lot.
Okay.
So there's other partners at play, but yes, at the end of the day, I do understand the concern on leaving a 40-foot in
So
place.
that's something that I would like, maybe if we can, through you, Madam Chair, to the Director, if we can look into a nice cost sharing between Grimsby and Lincoln for those culverts to go in and out, because again, it's gonna take some excavation, it's gonna take some mobilization and, some stuff to be done there, right? So some granular and such. And that, again, I think it's gonna be a good event. I've always attended the Caister Plow Match every year, and that's actually our little big event in Caister, which we all go to. So, I can't wait to see a little bit of this one as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Maychuk.
Through you, Madam Chair, first of all, congratulations on organizing this event. I'm a pro-event guy, and I'm very excited about your event and showcasing West Lincoln. I have 2 very quick questions, one through the chair to the CAO. Aside from the cost factor that you're going to bring back in a future report, logistically, is it possible to meet these needs in terms of the in-kind support?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the work that we've done so far, which includes liaison from the region with Grimsby and Lincoln and our staff, we believe working together, this is something that's achievable.
And through the chair, my last question, just because I've organized a lot of large-scale events, some international events. I'm just curious, logistically, the plows, in particular the ones from Europe, are they brought over for the competition, or are the plows provided here? Or logistically, how do you move all that equipment? And sorry, I'm a little naive on plow matches, but I'm just very curious how it actually operates and what the competition is in terms of how you win, how you lose, et cetera.
So, through the chair to the councillor, my understanding is, for overseas competitors, it's likely they will source a local plow. Okay, we're not a Formula One team with private jets. And in terms of the competition itself, I mean, it's been a long time. I've plowed in competition. I'm going to say Caister plowing match, Niagara plowing match, Niagara North plowing match. Probably, I don't want to date myself, so a long time ago. But you're looking at, accuracy. Are you able to? No GPS. You're driving straight. Consistency of the furrow, depth of the furrow. It's basically an aesthetics contest with clay, if I could put it. But yes, you're looking at those uniformity in the plow lands, and yeah, it's a science. So it's neat to see.
Is that all, Councillor? And Mayor Ganan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you very much for this presentation. I would just like to say how exciting this opportunity is for various reasons, but one of which is when we first formulated our council of this term and we did our strat plan, one of the things that we put in it was to enhance agriculture in our community. And this has provided a perfect opportunity for us to do that. So I really wanted to point that out, remind council that this is something that we said we wanted to get behind. I thought it was really good that somebody alluded to Poultry Fest, because periodically we see the old Bring Back Poultry Fest kind of thing come up. And this is a different way of doing the same thing, and I really think that it's wonderful that it's in West Lincoln. Renata, just one quick question to you. Are your cookbooks selling well? And if not, how can we help you do that and get that information out?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Come on up, please. Because I'd like, if you don't come to the microphone, then the people who watch this video later or are listening at home can't hear you. That's the only reason.
Okay. Cookbooks are doing very well. We still have lots. I think we have 17 boxes of 54 boxes still in storage. So that's how much we have to sell. They went to a few farm shows and they have been very well received. They're $20 each. If you want to send me a message, or if you want to go to Loudon's on Highway 20, they are selling them for us. And I think the Freeze Farms is selling them, and there's another. Do you remember? No. Check out our Facebook. It's on there.
And I asked that because one of the reasons that they were going to need a loan from us in the first place was to help get those kinds of things going, to help them sell merchandise and be able to fundraise to support going forward. So I think it's to the credit of this committee that they found a way to get some money coming in before money started to roll appropriately. And so thank you for that work, both of you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Furr. I know that we're all very excited about this up-and-coming event and getting more excited as we hear more about it. I'm certainly, I have a couple of questions. One is, do you currently have a social media presence? And is it on Facebook, Instagram, all of the above?
It's a strong, to the chair, it's a strong Facebook presence. I don't believe we've got, sorry, I'm looking at Renata because she's been, no Instagram yet, no.
Instagram is up.
Instagram is up and running now, okay.
We're almost.
I'll be the interpreter if I need to. You can yell through me.
We're almost ready with our poster to, and that's going to sponsor, all our sponsors, our bigger, larger sponsors are going to be in or on the poster. April 4th and 5th, I believe, if that's the weekend, is our conference, and the goal is to have the book ready for the plow and match with our vendors and our events and everything in it, and this will be distributed through Better Farming.
Very good. You twigged my interest with the mention of a cookbook and also souvenirs, so I'll be searching up your online presence. A question for you, Mr. Furr, is have you had any offers of in-kind use of marketing or communications people from the other municipalities?
Through you, Chair, at this point in time, we have not discussed marketing and communication with the other municipalities. I think we're going to work through the first list of in-kind, but I think that's a fantastic idea. It's a great question, and I think it's going to be put on our radar for our next communication.
Okay, great.
With the three.
Yeah, because I didn't see that on there, and
No.
I thought that that's a good opportunity for getting the word out.
And I just want to add, we do have contact with the region from the economic development side that we are working with closely, and he's going to be very supportive in that area as well.
Fantastic. So my last kind of comment is about the fact that where the location is kind of on the edge of West Lincoln. Yes, it is in West Lincoln. However, I'm sure the mass majority of people we would suspect would be coming up through Grimsby and making their way towards the property via that way. So we do have the clerk that's put together a resolution, as the CAO has indicated, and I'm going to that he could probably perhaps put some wording in there that staff could.
Management perspective, we are considering the routes into the site, and we know while Grimsby seems reasonable based on the QEW, we're also aware of creating, I think, a bit of a traffic jam in downtown Grimsby, which we want to avoid from a traffic management perspective. So we are looking at alternative routes into the site, which could involve moving through West Lincoln roads, which puts them that much closer to this community for, as you said, traveling the extra 5 minutes and being able to use community lands to support, to advertise the Township of West Lincoln. So we are looking at those routes.
Very good. And I have Councillor Rayner that has a comment or question, or both.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I am an avid agricultural supporter, a Guelph grad in agriculture, but what bothers me about this right now is your presentation. You started with the first day is the big one when they shut down the legislature. The legislature of Ontario right now is not supporting agriculture. They're supporting putting homes on agricultural land. Do you have any concern with this? Like, this to me is very hypocritical of an individual who has no respect for agriculture being invited to come here on something that we love, we enjoy, and we don't want to see development on it, and yet it's only a great opportunity for his photo shot with all his buddies.
Councillor Rayner, I'm just
Can I
wondering.
please just say what I want to say? I've devoted my life to agriculture, and I support it. I'm always fighting, as everybody knows here, to retain agricultural land. But the people that were coming here have proven they do not like agriculture.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Your comments are well received, and
Well, I
we
want an
certainly
answer,
have,
please.
and it's not his place to be talking about that. Do you have a question about the plowing match that's coming in September 16th to Saturday, September the 20th?
Just day one to me is not in the best interest of what we're trying to
Thank you,
promote,
Councillor
because
Rayner.
those
And I
people
will
aren't
move on to
interested
any of
in
my other
agriculture.
colleagues that have any
Oh.
further comments or questions. No, I see none. And I will turn to the clerk to see if he has that resolution ready.
Through the chair to the rest of council, I have prepared a motion in regards to the report that is being asked, as well as I attempted to put together something to capture the rest of council's conversation. I'll read it now. That administration be directed to prepare a report for the next Growth and Sustainability Committee meeting in regards to the scope of the municipal financial support for the international plowing match, and that administration explore potential economic benefits as well as partnerships with local organizations to encourage attending.
We have Councillor Chichuk to move it. Do I have a seconder? And Mayor Ganan. And the vote will come up in front of you.
Councilor Rayner, how do you vote? No.
And that carries. Thank you very much for your presentation, and we certainly wish you the best in your future planning, and I'm so excited to see this event come to our community.
Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your time tonight and your
Thank you.
support.
Do you have any of those cookbooks by chance in your car?
I lost my last cookbooks 2 days ago. Somebody picked up the last books, but I'd be happy to drop some off.
If I give you my card, you will just send me an email. I can pick them up, whatever. I don't. You
I'll
put
have
out.
you on Facebook.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, we will move along in our meeting. While Councillor Riley is gathering up some cookbooks for his scalloped potatoes he's going to make this Sunday for dinner. With item 6, request to address items on the agenda. 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided with 5 minutes to address their issues. Some exceptions may apply. A response may not be provided and the matter may be referred to staff. Is there any members of the public that are present that wish to address any items on this agenda? Seeing none. And Kevin, is there anyone virtually that would like to address any items?
Not seeing any, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Consent agenda items. There are none for this evening. Communications. We have item 8.1, 8.1, item CS 12-2025. Mayor Cheryl Ganan, redistribution of the provincial land transfer tax and GST to municipalities for sustainable infrastructure funding. Recommendation, whereas municipalities face growing infrastructure needs, including roads, bridges, public transit, water systems, and other critical services, which are essential to community well-being and economic development. And whereas the current sources of municipal revenue, including property taxes and user fees, are insufficient to meet these increasing demands for infrastructure investment, and whereas the province of Ontario currently collects the land transfer tax on property, transactions in municipalities across the province generating significant revenue that is not directly shared with municipalities, and whereas the federal government collects a goods and service tax on property transactions, a portion of which could be directed to municipalities to address local infrastructure needs, and whereas redistributing a portion of the provincial land transfer tax and GSTs to municipalities would provide a predictable and sustainable source of funding for local infrastructure projects without creating a new tax burden on residents or home buyers, and whereas a redistribution of a portion of the existing land transfer tax and GST would allow municipalities to better plan and invest in long-term infrastructure initiatives, supporting local economic growth and improving the quality of life for residents. 1. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Township of West Lincoln Council formally requests the provincial government to consider redistributing a portion of the land transfer tax collected on property transactions to municipalities, and 2. Be it further resolved that the Township of West Lincoln Council calls on the federal government to allocate a percentage of the GST collected on property sales to municipalities, and 3. Be it further resolved that the redistribution of the land transfer tax and GST should be structured to provide predictable and sustainable funding to municipalities, allowing for better long-term planning and investment in infrastructure projects that benefit local communities, thus ensuring that local governments receive a fair share of the revenue to address critical infrastructure needs, and 4. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Prime Minister, and it says in our agenda Justin Trudeau, but we will correct that to Prime Minister Mark Carney, Premier Doug Ford, the Ontario Minister of Finance, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, local members of Parliament, and members of provincial parliaments, and 5. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to all 444 municipalities in Ontario, the federal Canadian municipalities, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, for the endorsement and advocacy. May I have a mover? Mayor Ganan, and second by Councillor Riley. And the floor is yours, Mayor Ganan.
Thank you. I'm sorry to have done that to you, Madam Chair.
You should be.
That is not my resolution. That resolution first came to me from the mayor of Aurora, Mayor Tom Maracas. And I'm going to say it probably came first in about September. And it was about 34 municipalities, I think, that were already supporting that. So those of you who watch your council information package may have seen that that's been coming. About every 5 or 6 weeks, I've also received another email specifically from the mayor giving me an update, not to me specifically, but giving us, those of us who hadn't signed on yet, an update as to where it was. At about 80 municipalities involved, I gave a heads up to our clerk, and said, we're going to just watch this and see what happens. And as it grew, it went from 80 to 140 to then 180, and we're now well over 200 municipalities. So we thought that it's sort of proven its way as it's wound through the various municipalities in Ontario to be a worthwhile ask of the government in terms of the fact that it would provide some stable income to municipalities if the government so choose to do this, and it would not be harmful in any way to our taxpayers. And so we felt at this point in time it was worth bringing to council. To some of you it will be brand new, to some of you you've maybe been following it the same as we have, but it is time, I think, for our council to have a look at this, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Mayor Ganant's comments there, we've been seeing the messages come in, the emails more or less, quite a bit since September. This is definitely gaining momentum, and I think, and I certainly hope as the province and the feds start to review this, and specifically speaking to the province, with the level of downloading that municipalities across our province are experiencing, I certainly think they're at that threshold where this needs to be seriously considered, because if not, it's going to make life really tough as we keep going forward to find an alternative way of funding stuff if they're not willing to share some of that, yet they're willing to share all the responsibilities. So I really hope the province receives this well, and I hope we can actually see something positive out of this. Thank you.
Any other comments? And we're ready to put forward the vote.
Through the chair to the rest of council, I'll just note that I did make the change to the Prime Minister's name to now read Prime Minister Mark Carney.
And that carries. Great, thank you very much. Moving on to staff reports, item CS13-25, Director of Corporate Services, CFO Kaylin Repovs, Re-Information Report T-05 2025, 2024 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses for Members of Council and Persons Serving on Any Bodies. Recommendation 1, that information report T-05 2025 entitled The 2024 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses for Members of Council and Persons Serving on Any Bodies dated March 17, 2025 be received for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Ganant, and seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And that carries. Item CS14-25, Director of Legislative Services / Clerk, Justin Paylove, Recommendation Report, LLS-01-2025, Lease Agreement for a portion of the Smithville Parkette at the CIBC parking lot, Ken Bruccioni, Dog Got It, Hot Dog Cart. Recommendation 1, that the Recommendation Report, LLS-01-2025, titled Lease Agreement for a portion of the Smithville Parkette CIBC parking lot, Ken Bruccioni, Dog Got It, Hot Dog Cart, dated March 17, 2025, be received, and 2, that the request to enter into a 2-year lease agreement with Ken Bruccioni for a portion of the lands in the Smithville Parkette CIBC parking lot be approved, and 3, that a bylaw be presented at a future council meeting to authorize a 2-year lease agreement with Ken Bruccioni for use of a portion of the land in the Smithville Parkette CIBC parking lot for his barbecue/refreshment cart. Do I have a mover? And that would be Councillor Rayner, second by Councillor Chichak. And do I have any questions? Yes. Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you. Members of this committee know where I'm going to go with this one. This is, for the past decade, this has been coming as a councillor, us approving licenses. Again, this is something that we want to kind of mainstream that, this should be going to staff. I don't know why this is coming to, you have something to say, it looks like.
I'm going to turn to the clerk. He has comments.
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Trombetta, that was noted. So when we were looking into this, the actual ask is for the lease portion only. The licenses will still be given and approved by the clerk. The resolution that many years ago, I believe that Councillor Trombetta made actually, was regarding the refreshment carts. However, it was decided by council that the annual lease agreement, which is biannual, this was 2 years, would come back to council.
Okay.
So the lease agreement portion still needs council approval based on that resolution. However, the licensing for the refreshment cart is still done in-house by the clerk's department. So that portion won't be approved tonight by council, but it just so happens that this is the 2-year anniversary of the lease agreement and needs to be updated for those lands.
I'm not opposed to lease agreements coming to committee. Again, we've had issues with lease agreements in the past in this community that we had to get some things resolved. So yeah, that's not a problem. I guess it was tied into, the licensing was kind of throwing me off a bit, so that's why I was asking those questions. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go through you to the clerk. Is it possible to consider 2 years? I get that we don't necessarily want to be in a lifetime lease there by any means, certainly not what I'm asking. But I'm kind of wondering every 2 years, this individual has become a pillar in the community. People kind of know where they can count on him. He's there. I don't see him going anywhere. And he's been obviously, what do you call it? Like a good steward of the area. He certainly has never given the staff or the township any problems there. He's been a reliable and responsible business owner. So I'm just wondering if we can maybe lessen the burden and not having you come back every 2 years, or having him have to come back every 2 years. If maybe we can extend this to like 3 to 5 years, if that could be considered moving forward, whether we deal with that tonight or a different time. I think when we bring on a new vendor or you bring on someone new and you got to test them out, there's that honeymoon stage. You're not sure what you're going to get. I think we're past that, and we know he's an outstanding individual, so I'd like to see him given a little longer lease if necessary.
Back to the clerk.
Through the chair to Councillor Riley, council's free to make that amendment to extend the lease for a further. The recommendation was for the 2 years, as that was the resolution previous. However, council can obviously choose to extend that for a further period if you so choose.
Okay. And if I can follow up, that doesn't create an extra, that doesn't tie the individual in by any means, right? Like they have the option still. Okay, I just want to make sure. So that at that point, Madam Chair, I would ask that if we could make that friendly amendment, through you to the clerk there, if that could be considered among council here, I'd like to see that 5 years.
Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I don't have a problem with Councillor Riley's request, especially for this, we've had this for multiple years. The only issue you could have is, what if he sells and gets bought out and someone buys the dog got it? Sorry, I get a tongue twister. Right, dog got it, or hot dog cart, and he sells it, and then that person is not, like you said, a pillar of the area. What do we do in that aspect if it's a 5-year lease? You know what I mean? It could cause some. Again, it's not Mr. Brunaccioni. Brunaccioni's been a long-standing hot dog vendor, but I'm saying if he sells it and we don't know, and he's got that 5-year lease, then what? So, Mr. Clerk, I know you're trying to. You want to add something?
But yeah, so if I could, I guess my question would be to the clerk to clarify the terms of the lease. Should someone not be compliant with the terms of the lease, that would give the township the ability to revoke the lease. So I don't think there's a problem there. I think moving forward, they'd also hinder their chances of getting that renewal, and it certainly would give the council's privy at that point to change those terms going
Just want
forward.
to make sure we have that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the clerk to comment on this relishing relationship that we have with Mr. Doggone It, and see if that can be extended.
Through the chair, I'm not quite clever to come up with a pun on the spot. However, to Councillor Trombetta, there are provisions within the lease agreement to cancel from either party side if it does no longer serves a singular party. So in that case where council or administration feel that the terms of lease are not being respected by whoever is in ownership of that lease, we can terminate it.
And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is we experienced this as a council, probably my first term of council, on another property where it was sold and then resold, and then the lease was happening, and then we were getting some issues in regards to obviously not with Brunaccioni. I'm just saying, in just from what we've learned in the past on certain kind of lease agreements, right?
So Madam Chair, could we possibly make the lease specific to the individual? So in the event the individual chooses to no longer operate the business, like is it tied to the business or is it tied to the individual in the business? I guess that clarity is important.
We'll go back to the clerk.
Through the chair to Councilor Riley, it is tied to the business. Doug got it. Ken is just the individual who brings forth the application. I still feel that administration and council is covered by the lease, regardless of who is in ownership of Hot Dog or Dog Got It. Sorry, that is a tongue twister. I feel like the lease still does serve council and administration's desire to ensure that it is done in fair accordance. We've never received a complaint from any individual from the public in regards to that individual who is set up there, nor does planning or bylaw have any issue with that, and the individual in this case has also complied with any request that administration has made of them.
And I think with the provisions in the lease there, should the relationship change or should the ownership change, I think we're protected. So perfect, thank you.
I'm going to go to Councillor Chichuk.
The only concern I had is in extending it beyond 2 years, which is the end of this term of council, kind of puts the future council into the position of having a lease with someone that they've not seen. I only say that as good business. And with the town changing as it develops, although that might be years beyond the 2 years, it would be, I would hate to see Mr. Bernaccioni put out any additional money to fix up his cart or make a permanent cart or something like that if we were to change what we wanted to do with our downtown as it grows or whatever. So the only problem I have is that we've not done anything. We probably aren't going to do anything in 2 years, but would a future council be in any way handicapped by the fact that we were changing the term from 2 years? And I'm not saying that they would, but I am just saying that we normally would consider this offline and have the discussion so that it would come in here with the pros and cons before us. That's all.
Councillor Chichuk, would you like me to have the clerk comment on that, or I guess looking to other members of council to see
I
if there's
I'm just
other?
worried that we've gotten into a discussion about the whole thing. It's sometimes we did 2 years in the past, not to defend previous councils, but because we wanted to establish that honeymoon period was that we were dealing with someone who was here for the long haul. But one of the other things was that we did not want to compel a future council to a term of a contract that we employed. So that's why I'm saying we may be where we are because of that. So it's up to council. I'm not going to go further than that because we'll belabor the point and the person.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarity. So we do have, is there anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to go through and sort of clarify what Councillor Riley was saying, and that is that just within this year, Ken has changed his business, although it's officially still that. It adds an "and son," so I think that there's no intention ever. This is his retirement job, and there's no intention to do anything more than include his family members taking part in all of this, and so I think we can not worry about that. That was before Councillor Chichuk's issue, but certainly in terms of making an arrangement with the Brunaccioni, it's the family, it's in for a penny, in for a pound, so to speak. They are all involved, including, what they do at the arena. So they, and that's not, I'm not making a comment about the term, I just wanted to clarify the fact that it's not about to be sold, there's no interest in selling, and the only changing hands would be if Ken retired and Nick took over, essentially, so, thank you.
Okay, I think I have the sense that we'll put this motion to vote. Do you need to review with the friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
So through the chair, just to the rest of council, just for the sake of clarity, I have changed the lease agreement here to a 5-year lease agreement, so that will be the vote in front of you unless council has a different opinion. Okay.
And that vote will come in front of you. Sorry, that supports. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 9.3, which is item CS 15-2 2023-25, Director of Corporate Services, CFO Caitlin Repovs, Recommendation Report T-06-2025, Tendering and Purchasing Policy and Purchasing Card Policy Updates. Recommendation, 1, that the Recommendation Report T-06-2025, titled Tendering and Purchasing Policy and Purchasing Card Policy Updates, dated March 17, 2025, be received, and 2, that the updates on the Township Tendering and Purchasing Policy, POL-T-01-2015, and its Schedules A and B as outlined be approved, and 3, that the updates to the Township's Purchasing Card Policy, POL-T-02-18, and its Schedule A as outlined be approved. Do I have a mover? Mayor Ganan and Councillor Riley. Caitlin, do you have any comments, or would you like to talk about this report at all?
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, so this report in front of Council this evening presents changes to 2 of the Township's purchasing policies. So the first is our tendering and purchasing policy, and the second is our purchasing card policy. So these updates are largely as a result of the recent organizational restructuring changes. Administration is recommending changes to those regarding new positions along with title changes of positions. There are also some clarification improvements that we are recommending to both of the policies. Specifically with the tendering and purchasing policy, there is a clarity item just with regards to the request for proposal item. And with our purchasing card policy, there is a clarity just with respect to card holder responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Is there any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, and we'll go to the vote. And that carries. Moving along to item 9.4, item CS 16-25, Property Tax and Payroll Coordinator Lisa Casco-Young, Recommendation Report T-07-2025, Tax Rate Bylaw. The recommendation is that 1, that Recommendation Report T-07-2025, titled 2025 Tax Rate Bylaw, dated March 17, 2025, be received, and 2, that the 2025 tax rates attached as Schedule A to this report be approved, and 3, that bylaw 2025-13 to set the rates of taxation for the year 2025 be approved. Do I have a mover? Mayor Ganan and Councillor Chichak. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Caitlin. Caitlin, let's just, for the people who are listening, review this. The township's percent came in at what? Was it 5.84 or something?
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Rayner, so for the township portion of the tax levy, the increase for an average homeowner, as presented in the report, is approximately a 4.25% increase.
Okay, 4.25. Now, the region, the mayor and regional council would have been approved with 9.6. So that results in a blended rate of what is the final number that is the actual number?
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Rayner, so as shown in the report, the blended rate for average homeowner is 6.01% for resident not in the urban service area, but for someone within the urban service area, the blended rate is approximately 5.91% increase.
So the rural ones are higher, did you say?
Slightly higher, yes.
The reasoning behind it, Madam Chair?
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Rayner, the reason behind why the blended rate increase for those in the urban service area over those not in the urban service area is in regards to the urban service area levy remaining the same as 2024.
Oh, okay, which was approved separately. If I may ask another question?
Yeah.
Last year's taxes was high, 6.55. This year, it's still high. I assume next year, because it's election year, it'll go down, but that's just because that's the way life works. Through to Caitlin, on my tax bill, I have a regional transit levy that I paid $169.72 last year. I walk my dogs every day for an hour, and I have yet to have a bus go by me. Can you tell me where this money is going? We don't have any transit in West Lincoln. Or correct me if I'm wrong, I missed the bus somewhere.
Caitlin, if you would like, I can refer that to Councillor Riley, who is our council rep for the Transportation Committee.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please,
No
Councillor
problem.
Riley.
I will say, Councillor Rayner definitely missed the bus. There's no question about that. So years ago, yeah, well, you missed it many years ago. But respectfully, so how, through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, so how it's structured is before we had a transit commission, before the amalgamation took place, there was regional dollars that was already allocated that went towards transit-like services based on our population, based on the geography of our community. And so even though we never had a transit service, we were still contributing to one very minimally. I don't have the number in front of me. I'm going to say it's somewhere, I think it's somewhere around like $500,000 or $600,000 is West Lincoln's total investment many years ago before we actually had the Transit Commission, and it was just kind of how you deal with everything, you know, when you look at policing, public health, all that stuff. So this was when the amalgamation took place, they were able to figure out each area what they're contributing, and that got parked under the Transit Commission is what we'd already been allocating through our tax dollars many years before. So even though we have a commission now, there's no new money that's been put forward. That's money that was put forward prior, all the years leading up to the day that it amalgamated. And so even though now they're showing everybody in a very transparent form, which I respect and I appreciate, because I think everyone needs to see this stuff, what that allocation is. So again, you're not being charged any new money that wasn't already there. That's just how things were done before, but people weren't aware of it because it wasn't nearly as accessible or transparent. And then once the amalgamation took place, they do have to show now what each area is paying, and that money just stayed there.
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Riley. So that money's there, but when are we getting to use it? When is it ever going to happen? Why are we contributing to something we don't have?
Well, so you, Madam Chair, it's a great question. I understand where you're going for on a general sense. It's money that's already there and through a mechanism that was created prior. I think you got to look at it from the other side of it. So when they provide the on-demand and specialized service, which we do get, some of that is there to offset that. So that it's not that we don't get it. You probably don't need it. You certainly haven't had a chance to use it because you're still, driving or capable or whatever your situation is, and other people's situations that do rely on it are going to change vastly from yours. But just because you don't see a bus doesn't mean you're not getting anything. Just what we're getting right now is the on-demand, which is a very, an Uber-like service, I guess maybe to explain it here in terms of what we have. So that's the money that's been allocated that's subsidizing that.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Riley. Is that in reference to those ones where you call and there's people that we've had phone calls, and Councillor Trebena's had it too, where they waited an hour and nobody showed up? Is this what where this money's going for?
Absolutely, yes. So to put it a little bit more delicate than that, it's not a perfect system, and the commission is doing everything we can to try to improve that system. But they got to keep in mind the part of those contracts that are created. So through you, Madam Chair, is the negotiations take place with the contracts that end up getting implemented. It isn't just a per use situation where we're paying X amount and you're guaranteed service. It's kind of done more on an umbrella approach. So part of those issues we're having in terms of our residents not getting the service that we deserve comes with the fact that there isn't enough money there to keep enough people on the road, getting enough vehicles around that actually meets the demand that we currently are. And in fact, the demand in West Lincoln is significantly higher in some respects than it would have been years prior when we didn't have this service. So I get where you're coming from, and I share your frustration.
They're still doing it.
Doing what?
They're picking up people and moving them around.
Yeah, they picked them up. I think the problem is it's not a perfect system, and through you, Madam Chair, and how we're trying to, I guess, fix that is still yet to be seen. But at the same time, they are making strides to improve it. Right now, it's really the commission itself and how it's structured. Not so much the commission, but the amalgamated transit service itself is still really new, and so that aspect of it really begs some forgiveness, I guess, to some extent, because again, we know that there's a lot of people who are struggling to get around, but there is a demand for it, and we need to find a way to make that happen.
I'm going to allow one more question in regards to transportation, and then you could, perhaps we can arrange a time for Councillor Riley and yourself to sit
No,
down.
I'm fine with that. I just have another question, if I may, Madam Chair, through the Caitlin. Well, this is kind of a loaded question, but I got to know the answer. Madam Mayor said that she fought and she tried, and the best she could do was 9.6 with the region taxes, which was, she agreed, ridiculous at a time when we're supposed to be cutting back.
I'm going to
But the
disallow that
majority of-
question, Councillor Rayner, because this is about our
I know, but it relates-
budget, and we're going to be directing questions that are ones that Caitlin can answer. She can't answer questions about the regional taxes and their budget.
Can
Do you
I
have a
ask the CAO?
Do you have a question for Caitlin in regards to this report?
Then may I ask the CAO that question, because it leads to something else.
No, you cannot. Do you have a question for Caitlin?
No.
Okay, then does anybody else have any further questions in regards to this report and recommendation on the table? And the vote will come in front of you.
Thank you. We have a recorded vote? Too late.
And that carries. Item 9.5, item CS 17-25, Director of Operations, Mike DiPaolo. Recommendation report. I don't know if that's an O or a 0. 05-2025, Water and Wastewater Rate Study and Financial Plan Request for Proposals Award. Recommendation 1, that recommendation report, I'll say O-05-2025, titled Water and Wastewater Rate Study and Financial Plan Request for Proposal Award dated March 17, 2025 be received, and 2, that Watson and Associates Economics Limited be retained to complete the water and wastewater rate study and financial plan as outlined in RFP 0PR 2025-02 at the price of $34,989 excluding HST. Do I have a mover? Councillor Maychuk, and second by Councillor Chichuk. Do I have any questions or comments, or perhaps the director, do you have anything you would like to say about that?
Sure. Through the chair, the purpose of this study is to, it's required once every 5 years in order for us to renew our water license. Our water license is due for renewal in 2026, so this project was included in the 2025 budget, so we just went through the RFP process, and we're recommending the award to Watson Associates. They had the best proposal, they have the best technical team, they have a lot of experience with the township's recent development background study that was recently done, and they also did the water wastewater rate study 5 years ago. So staff felt that this firm is competent to do this study, so therefore we're making this recommendation. And basically the purpose of the study is just to develop a financial plan. In addition to renewing our license, the purpose of the study is to develop a financial plan in order to ensure cost recovery with the township's operating and capital costs for our water and wastewater system.
and it'll also help us identify adequate resources to comply with the Safe Drinking Waters Act. So this is an important study for us, and we're hoping that this recommendation gets approved.
Thank you, Director. Is there anybody else that have any questions or comments? And we'll go to the vote. And that carries. And we're moving along to other business. Item 10.1, item CS 18-25, members of committee, reverbal updates from members of boards and committees. And I'll go around the horseshoe, starting with Councillor Rayner. Do you have any updates? And Councillor Chichok?
Nothing for this evening, thank you.
Councillor Riley?
Same here.
Councillor Trumbetta? Mayor Ganan? Okay, that's everybody. And we're moving on to item 10.2, item CS 19-25, members of council, other business items of an informative nature. Do I have anybody wishing to bring anything forward? Councillor Maychuk.
No, I just want to thank our Director of Public Works. Last week I had an opportunity to visit the yard and meet the staff, and I was just very pleased and happy with the fine work. And at the Public Works meeting, I'll personally acknowledge all the staff I met, and it was very informative, and I learned quite a bit.
Great. And anyone else? No? Okay, we're going to move on to item 10.3. Item CS 20-25, Councillor William Riley, Municipal Purchasing Bylaw. Recommendation 1, that the Township of West Lincoln recognizes that recent trade tensions between Canada and the United States have led to increased economic uncertainty, and 2, that the Township of West Lincoln recognizes the importance of ensuring fiscal responsibility while also supporting domestic industries and supply chains that contribute to local economic stability, and 3, that the municipality acknowledges its need to align with economic realities while remaining compliant with existing provincial and federal trade agreements, and 4, that administration be directed to review the purchasing bylaw with a lens of supporting Canadian industry and returning with a report to a future Corporate Services Committee meeting. And this will be moved by Councillor Riley and second by Councillor Maychuk. And Councillor Riley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I won't belabor this by any means. I know we've had an evening here. So real quickly, for those who are watching back in January. In January, I had put the question out there about what we could be doing to better invest in our community, recognizing the inevitable. And unfortunately, at the time, it was still a question in the air, but I think a question we all knew was going to happen, and it happened. And so I think the timing for this is great. I'm actually starting to see, since our conversation in January, other municipalities do something very similar, if not exactly the same. Just the other day, I think Lincoln passed a tariff response team. Right now, I just want to make sure, and I think members of council agree in the conversation I've had with them as well, that if there's an opportunity to invest in West Lincoln, Ontario, across the country, that those are being addressed and looked at and considered first, and then we kind of move from there. And I think, hopefully when staff comes back with this, they'll be able to identify how we can achieve that. This isn't just something that we can just, do on a whim. We need to make sure that we're making a responsible choice here and a responsible decision here. So this is really just what we have before us tonight, to get those wheels moving, and I hope the will council will support it. I'll ask for a recorded vote when the time comes, Madam Chair.
And Mayor Ganan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just further to what Councillor Riley was talking about, this is a really good first step internally, but you mentioned Lincoln, and the other thing that some of the other municipalities have done, and again, in our council information package, you probably have seen some Lincoln, of course, has a resolution as well. Those resolutions are going forward, sort of encouraging the province, all of the provinces, but our province in particular, to work with the federal government as well. So we don't have notice of motion as such, but further to this motion tonight, which we're doing, I think that it might be worthwhile for members of council to think about looking at what the other municipalities are doing in terms of sort of advocating on behalf of the government, all levels, working together in terms of supporting communities through this. And perhaps at the next corporate services meeting, we might want to look at that more fully and decide that. So between now and the next meeting of corporate services, perhaps we look at whether somebody feels that it's worthwhile for us to take that next step. So thank you.
Any other members that would like to comment? No? Do you need to add on to that current resolution? Okay, then the vote will, you wanted a recorded vote.
Through the chair, I will just read through the names and just need confirmation from each individual member of council how they vote. My first is Mayor Ganam.
Support.
Councillor Riley.
Support.
Councillor Bradford.
Support.
Councillor Rayner.
Support.
Councillor Chichok.
Support.
Councillor Trombetta. Councillor Machak.
Very supportive.
Very. That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Great, we're moving on. New business. Note, only items that require immediate attention and direction and must first approve a motion to introduce a new item of business. Does any members of council have a new item of business to bring forward? Seeing none, we'll move on. Confidential matters, there is none. And that brings us to our adjournment, and we adjourn this meeting at 8:29. Thank you.